This is the video where we help you rank the top 25 rookies for Dynasty Fantasy Football. And I broke them down into 5 different tiers, which will help you kind of differentiate between both positions and also the overall values where that tier break is. And it's going to start with the number 1 rookie, Marvin Harrison Jr. He's going to land as the number 1 receiver on the Arizona Cardinals for Kyler Murray. And his only competition right now is going to be a veteran and Greg Dortch, a slot receiver, and a second-year player, third-round pick, Michael Wilson. Truthfully, that's not going to be a lot of competition for Marvin Harrison. You could argue that last year at Ohio State, with worse quarterback play, that he had harder competition and he was still able to, in just 12 games, put up over 1,200 yards and 14 touchdowns. Which brings us to the number 2 player in the rankings now, another wide receiver, Malik Nabers, who's going to be the Giants' number 1 receiver. And look, they just lost their most talented players. Darren Waller's likely going to retire. Saquon Barkley is now gone, and they replace him with Devin Singletary, who's not much of a pass-catching running back. So what you get from a competition standpoint for Malik Nabers is really no elite wide receivers on the Giants. You have Jalen Hyatt, a second-year player, a vertical slot player, doesn't really pan out too often in the NFL. Darius Slayton, he's fine, but he's getting up there in age. And then after this, Wan'Dale Robinson, a short yardage type player. We'll see what happens with Sterling Shepard, always injured. Isaiah McKenzie, short distance guy. There's nobody like Malik Nabers for the explosiveness, especially after the catch and downfield. And for Dynasty, it's good that Nabers is young. He's just 20 years old, and the quarterback situation is obviously the main downside, but when there's no competition, it makes it easier for him to get that 25 to 30% target share. The next player up in our tier 1 of these Dynasty rankings is going to be Rome Odunze. And look, these first 2 guys, they're great in all fantasy formats, season-long, Dynasty, but Rome Odunze is even better specifically in Dynasty because there's just no way around it. His competition right now is going to be difficult. DJ Moore coming off of a career year where he had almost 1,400 yards. Keenan Allen, even though he's 32, last year he averaged 11.5 targets per game and did not look like he was slowing down. Rome Odunze is likely the wide receiver 3 on this team for this year, but heading into next year when Keenan Allen shouldn't be there, that's when he starts to have a lot more upside. And now Odunze is great. That's why he was a top 10 player. He could win downfield and after the catch, so there is a chance that he does threaten Allen at some point this year for the starting job in 2 wide receiver sets. The number 4 ranked Dynasty rookie for me is Xavier Worthy. I said he was the biggest winner in the entire NFL draft, so yeah, he's going to land in tier 1 here because he goes to the Chiefs, they trade up for him, and yeah, now he's playing with Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid as his coach. And the fella's just 20 years old, and he had 3 strong years of production at Texas, where right away as an 18-year-old, he earned a 30% target share. Now, the competition's not just going to be easy for Xavier Worthy, but if you look at it right away, I mean, Marquise Brown, Rashee Rice, these guys are okay, sure, but Xavier Worthy should be a starter immediately with that draft capital and his skill set, and Marquise Brown is only on a 1-year deal. Travis Kelce is getting up there in age now at like age 34. He just signed a 2-year extension, but this is the type of thing you're looking at heading into 2025, Worthy can have an impact this year and then really take a step forward in terms of target share next year and beyond. Now, for the final player in the 2024 Dynasty rankings, we go to the running back position, and it's Jonathan Brooks. He's going to be the Carolina Panthers' most likely new running back 1, as he was traded up for by the Panthers to be taken in round 2. And he joins a Panthers backfield where there is Miles Sanders and Chuba Hubbard, but primarily the competition will be Chuba Hubbard because Hubbard already beat out Miles Sanders last year. Now there's trade rumors surrounding Miles Sanders, and Hubbard was solid last year, but it's not like he's going to be this type of player. I think he's a former 4th-round pick that is going to be holding off Jonathan Brooks for too long, because Brooks just averaged over 21 touches per game last year for Texas. He's shown that he could be a workhorse back, something that Chuba Hubbard has done a couple of games in his career, but not for a long period of time in the NFL. And when you factor in Brooks' rushing yards last year of over 1,100 and his receiving yards of over 200, nearly 300, he averaged over 140 total yards per game. Now, Brooks did tear his ACL. He had surgery in November, so he should be ready by August, which means he might be ramped up in September. That's where Chuba Hubbard can actually be the guy, but towards the midway point of the year, he should see a full-time role of 16+ touches. Now, I get it that the landing spot might have some people concerned for Jonathan Brooks because the Panthers were not good last year, but they got 3 offensive linemen this offseason, Deontay Johnson, they drafted Xavier Legette, who we'll talk about later on in this video, a wide receiver, and a new coach, Dave Canales. This program could be totally different a couple of months from now. And Dave Canales gushed about Jonathan Brooks, saying he's very versatile, the ways that they could use him in the run game, out wide as a receiver. He was gushing about him in a way that basically meant like, yeah, this guy's our RB1. We now start off tier 2 of the rookie dynasty rankings with Brian Thomas, who the Jacksonville Jaguars actually traded back in the NFL draft and were still able to get him, and he's going to be going to a team that threw the 6th most times per game last year, and they have a stable quarterback situation in Trevor Lawrence. Now, Thomas is not going to enter a offense that doesn't have a lot of targets. No, they just signed Gabe Davis to a big deal, but he'll mostly be running vertical routes, but Christian Kirk is definitely going to be tough target competition, earning a lot of targets each of the past 2 years with Trevor Lawrence, and he's also going to be with this team through 2025. And then, of course, there's Evan Ingram, who's also been earning a lot of targets, especially against zone-heavy defenses in the middle of the field. So a lot of this is a bet just on his profile. 4.33 speed. He can win downfield, a red zone threat, 17 touchdowns last year in first-round draft capital. Yeah, there's there's going to be some competition here, but the hope is that this team throws enough that it doesn't matter. And for what it's worth, he kind of sets up nicely with Trevor Lawrence, who attempted the 5th most deep balls last year. Next up is the number 7th ranked rookie in these dynasty rankings, and that is going to be Brock Bowers, the first tight end that we'll talk about. He's been basically the best tight end in college football, definitely the past 2 years where he won the Mackey Award for best tight end in the country each of those years, but probably also the past 3 years, his entire time in college, and now he lands on the Raiders with their first round pick. And look, it's not like the best overall situation. They don't really have a great quarterback situation there. They want to run the ball a lot, and Michael Mayer, a second round tight end who was productive last year as a rookie, is on this offense. But we've already seen Bowers have success in a Georgia offense where there was a lot of guys involved, where at times they were a middling passing attack with middling quarterback play, and he was still able to be a big producer. I mean, Bowers produced every single year in college, dating back to when he first got in the league in 2021, and he was just 18 years old. He puts up nearly 900 yards. Every year his production increased. 942 yards the following year, 713 yards his final season, but that was just in 10 games. It was actually his most yards per game. Every year he got better in a bunch of different avenues, whether it was blocking, whether it was just understanding zone defenses. And for what it's worth, this quarterback situation should only get better. Maybe there's even a chance like a Dak Prescott is there next year, and Devontae Adams is going to be 32 years old this season, so he's not going to be there for much longer. Next up, our number 8 rookie. He cracks the top 10 here, and it's the new Buffalo Bills, probably ex-wide receivers with their own general manager and their quarterback is saying, and that is Keon Coleman, who gets the early second-round draft capital to go to this offense that has a very stable quarterback being paid a lot of money in Josh Allen and not a lot of target competition. It's going to be Khalil Shakur, second-year tight end Dalton Kincaid, and Curtis Samuel as his biggest competition, and none of those guys have the ability of being a jump ball downfield receiver with size like Keon Coleman. Coleman is just 20 years old, so that's good for dynasty fantasy football. Like we said, he has that stable quarterback situation, and he enters an offense where Stephon Diggs is leaving behind 160 targets. And this tweet was pretty encouraging. Josh Norris put out a bunch of press conferences after the NFL draft of coaches and GMs, and this is the GM Brandon Beane from the Bills. He said that Josh Allen has an affinity for Keon Coleman, and when you go a little bit deeper, look at this right here. He says, we're going to be counting on Keon Coleman early, right away. So as a rookie receiver, he's going to go out there and be our X-receiver on the outside, which is where Stephon Diggs was and where a lot of upside comes into play. So Coleman was one of the biggest winners from the NFL draft. There was rumors he could fall late into the second or early third round. Instead, he ends up being an early second round pick and now is going to be the Bills' potential number 1 receiver. My number 9 player is our first quarterback, Caleb Williams. And if you're talking about super flex rankings, Williams would be number 1, and all the quarterbacks in this video would take a big bump up. And if you want to see my full overall complete rankings and my super flex rankings, you can just click the link in the description below or the QR code on the screen right now and get access to that for the next 12 months. It'll be updated a bunch during that time. Now, Williams is set up for immediate success with the Chicago Bears, maybe the best that a number 1 overall pick has ever gone into, and you have DJ Moore, Keenan Allen there, Rome Odunze, who we talked about earlier, a fine tight end room in Cole Kmet and Gerald Everett, and a bunch of quality running backs that include DeAndre Swift. So you're getting this number 1 overall draft capital. He's just 22 years old, and he's going to be coming out after checking all the boxes in college. All 3 years in college, he was extremely efficient, averaging over 9 yards per attempt, around a 66% college completion percentage for his career. And look at this right here. When you look at his passing touchdowns versus interceptions, he threw 93 career touchdowns to just 13 interceptions. Now, Williams is my quarterback 1. He has a very sturdy floor and also a high ceiling, but this next guy probably has an even higher ceiling. And that is Jayden Daniels, the quarterback out of LSU, who went as the number 2 overall quarterback in this year's draft. And I think that he does have a higher ceiling because of what he can do with his legs than a Caleb Williams. Last year alone at LSU, he ran for over 1,100 yards, threw 40 touchdowns, by the way, just 4 interceptions. So he was running last year for, I believe, 94 yards per game. And over the last 3 seasons, as you can see right here as a starter, he's averaged 70 rushing yards per game, tossed 67 touchdowns to just 17 interceptions. A very productive player. The only reason he's behind Caleb Williams, I think Williams just has more job security long-term in this league. He doesn't have as many question marks as Jayden Daniels, which maybe could lead to a shorter career. But make no mistake about it, Jayden Daniels is also entering a pretty solid situation for a number 2 overall draft pick. You have a nice security blanket in Austin Eckler there. You have a very proven veteran in Terry McLaurin and a solid number 2 in Jahan Dotson when put in the right position. And then you have a reliable tight end that they signed maybe for this reason. They knew they were going to take a rookie quarterback in Zach Ertz with an upside tight end drafted in Ben Sinan. And not to mention the Commanders fully revamped their offensive line in free agency. They probably have 4 new starting linemen after their free agent signings. Now we enter tier 3 of these rookie dynasty rankings, and I want to talk about Ladd McConkey, my first player in tier 3, the wide receiver that we saw the Chargers trade up for in the NFL draft to take at the top of the second round. And this is a great landing spot for 2 reasons. Number 1, he has a reliable and stable quarterback situation in Justin Herbert. And number 2, there's no legit competition as of now on this roster. Because as you can see right here, his biggest competition is going to be Quentin Johnson, a first-round rookie from last year who struggled with efficiency, struggled with drops, only caught 38 balls. Josh Palmer, who's a fine receiver, fine number 3 receiver for a team, but not somebody who will threaten like 100 and 120 target seasons consistently. And after that, just a bunch of 7th-round picks from this past year: Cornelius Johnson, Brendan Rice. I do not know why Charles Oliveira is on the player profiler screen for Jalen Guyton, but it is is funny. So I think that McConkey can threaten easily right away for, even though it's a run first offense, 100 plus targets immediately, and maybe be that Keenan Allen replacement, the great route runner for Justin Herbert. Now my number 12 rookie is another running back. It is Trey Benson, who landed in Arizona. Not the greatest situation for this year specifically, but 2025 and after, I think it looks a lot better, because here's the deal. He's a third round pick and James Conner is still there, and James Conner has been productive the last few seasons. To get more specific with that, Conner last year alone ranked 6th in rushing yards. He had over 1,200 total yards last season, and he was still top 10 in a lot of great categories like breaking tackles, averaging over 5 yards per touch as well. But that said, James Conner is 29 years old. He's entering the last year of his contract. Next year he'll be 30 years old, and there's a pretty good chance that if Trey Benson shows something at all this year, that they won't re-sign James Conner, and this will be Benson's backfield next season. And not to mention, there's always upside that Benson can contribute right away this year. He'll probably see, at the very least, as the immediate running back 2 on this team, at least 30-35% of the snaps. The number 13 rookie in these rankings will be Xavier Legette, who the Panthers traded up to get in the first round. So they paid a decent price to go and get him. They get the 5th-year option on him. And here's the deal. This Panthers offense, like we said earlier, completely different now with Deontay Johnson there, a new coach in Dave Canales, and a bunch of new offensive linemen. Now, the immediate target competition for Xavier Legette, it's definitely not something to just joke around about. There's actual guys here. There's Deontay Johnson, who they traded for this offseason, and is somebody who's always been a target hog. And then there's Adam Thielen, who, although he's older at like 33, 34, at least for the first half of the year last year, he was a threat, seeing a bunch of targets. And I think he'll probably do something this year similar to that to start the year, till his body breaks down a little bit, and the fact that Bryce Young just has that comfortability already built in with him. But Legette brings a new dimension to this offense. He's a guy who is big. He has the height, the weight, the speed, and he wins downfield and after the catch, which is not really the game at this stage in his career of Adam Thielen, and has never really so much so been the game for Deontay Johnson. And this is the post-draft presser from the new coach Dave Canales. Josh Norris posted this, credit to him. He basically goes on and just says a bunch of great things about the versatility of an Xavier Legette in this offense. But he did add, if you were to watch this, that Xavier Legette does need polish, but that he envisions him in the offense, and that's what he saw when he was watching his tape, and they were pumped to get him. So Legette, maybe not a wide receiver 1 right away for dynasty leagues, but he is somebody who can get molded into that, especially if this offense takes a step forward with Bryce Young this year. Now we enter tier 4, and my first player in tier 4 is going to be Ricky Pearsall, who ends up going in the first round of the NFL draft, and he is a very interesting player to try and rank for dynasty because he gets that great draft capital and lands in one of the best coached offenses in the league under Kyle Shanahan with the 49ers. However, the team that he's on is currently loaded, because the last time I checked, Christian McCaffrey's there, George Kittle's there, Brandon Ayuk and Deebo Samuel, neither of them were traded. They're both still there. And you could even take it a step further and say Juwan Jennings is still there, which a lot of you might laugh at, but Juwan Jennings was great for this team last year. He plays a role as a wide receiver 3, can be a wide receiver 2, and he's also great in the run blocking game. Now, there were rumors that one of these receivers in Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk was going to get traded. Odds are it would maybe be Deebo Samuel, the older receiver, the not traditional X like Brandon Ayuk could be, but as of right now, they haven't been traded, and heading into this year, that's going to hurt Ricky Pearsall's ability to earn targets and snaps if both these guys are on the team. And with the NFL draft now coming and going, it's unlikely that these guys are going to be traded at least this year. Now, if you wanted to look forward into next year, you can see right here, I'll put a box around it. Deebo Samuel has an out in his contract after this year, and based on all the smoke that's out there right now, there's a decent chance that they exercise this out if they're not able to trade him at some point, which maybe opens up the door for more snaps and routes for Ricky Pearsall heading into 2025. But the only issue there is Christian McCaffrey is still under contract in 2025. So is George Kittle. We're expecting and assuming that at some point Brandon Ayuk, as they've said they've wanted to re-sign him all off season, will also be there for 2025 and beyond. So this is a confusing situation for fantasy because he's a first-round receiver who enters that great offense. He was the most efficient slot receiver in all of the SEC last year and can also play on the outside. But the competition is just brutal right now, but it was nice to see Kyle Shanahan go out there and say some of the things that he really liked about him. You can see right here, Josh Norris posted. Basically, he was saying that he can win on the inside and out. He has good hands. He can win after the catch. All the reasons that they like him, and if he can just get on the field in this offense, he will be productive, but that's the big question, if he can. If you're finding this content enjoyable and or helpful so far, make sure to hit the subscribe button. It really goes a long way and helps me out as we push towards 100,000 subscribers. So let's move from a first-round receiver now to a first-round quarterback for our number 15 ranked player. And that player is Drake May, who is a top 5 overall pick in this draft. He's going to have all the opportunity in the world to be this team's franchise quarterback, and he should see significant playing time right away in year 1. They're saying Jacoby Brissett could start, but we should see a lot of Drake May once he's ready. Now, the problem with Drake May, at least in 2024, is this right here. First off, it's his wide receiver room. It's a little bit unpolished. There's a lot of younger players here. Demario Douglas, a second-year player, might be their best receiver. A couple of rookies in Jalen Polk and also Javon Baker downhill. We'll talk about it a little bit sooner. And then some veterans. Juju might not even make this team. Kendrick Bourne has been inconsistent and inability to stay healthy over the years. And also, they have a first-year head coach who's never been a head coach before. Not much of an offensive guru either. But despite the shaky first-year situation, that can always change. And if he's going to be their franchise guy, you're hoping that he's there for 5 to 10 plus years. And he also has some quality rushing upside as well, averaging over 40 yards per game his final 2 seasons in college. And we'll stay with the Patriots for our number 16 ranked player, wide receiver Jaylen Jaylen Polk, who, again, speaking of Drake May in this situation, Polk was the second-round pick for the Patriots, the first receiver that they took in this draft, and they've already stated, and we've seen it last year in film, that he could play all three wide receivers for them, which gives him a better chance to get on the field and earn some reps. Now, as we just showed for Drake May, this wide receiver room, there's just really not any standout competition for Jaylen Polk. Now, you can say that he himself maybe isn't this elite alpha receiver, but there's just not one right now on this team. So somebody can go out there and grab it. We didn't see nobody do it last year. The Mario Douglas came close with a couple of 20% target share weeks, but it could be Jaylen Polk, and that's what really gives him a lot of value in year one, especially if Drake May can take a big step forward in his rookie year. The number 17 ranked player takes us back to a quarterback, and it's a guy who's honestly rising for me, and it's JJ McCarthy, because he gets the incredible landing spot with the Minnesota Vikings. They traded up to be a top 10 pick to get JJ McCarthy. He gets the good head coach in Kevin O'Connell, and a great situation where, look, Kevin O'Connell made Josh Dobbs look like a great quarterback for a couple of weeks last year. And I mentioned that Caleb Williams is in a great spot for a number one overall pick. This might be the best offensive situation ever for like a rookie to be joining, a first round rookie at least. He's going to be having Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, TJ Hawkinson, that coach Kevin O'Connell, and Aaron Jones on offense. The only reason I'm not higher is the fact that there were just some questions more so around JJ McCarthy's profile compared to Drake May. Drake May maybe has a little bit more upside from a rushing standpoint, as well as the overall arm talent. And Sam Darnold is thought to maybe be getting the starting job at least to start the year here. I'm a little bit skeptical of that, but there are some rumors out there he can start a couple of weeks. Now, for our number 18 player, we're going to shift back to the wide receiver position. And that takes us to Adonai Mitchell, who unfortunately is falling for me, mostly for a couple of reasons. He fell in the NFL draft. Instead of being a first-round pick for off-the-field potential issues and some efficiency issues, well, he falls to being a second-round pick for the Colts, and that's not the best landing spot because they just signed Michael Pittman to a 3-year extension worth over $70 million, and they have a second-year player, Josh Downs, who in his rookie year last year almost had 1,800 yards, or almost had 800 yards. That'd be a massive season, 1,800, which is just going to be hard for Adonai Mitchell to come in and immediately compete with those guys. And this is all compared to our pre-draft expectations of him going to a spot and having a chance to be the wide receiver one. That won't be the case for Michael Pittman, or at least having a chance to be the clear wide receiver two. That's not going to be the case when you have Josh Downs there. And we at least have to mention that Anthony Richardson is coming off of an ACL tear, and Anthony Richardson is known for his mobile upside. Can he sustain 2 to 3 wide receivers? I don't know. At least Anthony Richardson, though, has a big arm, which does gel nicely with Adonai Mitchell's skill set of winning downfield. But overall, he is dropping a little bit for me because this landing spot, both now and in the future, these next few seasons, is going to have a lot of competition. Now, as we head into the rest of tier 4 and tier 5 of these rankings, I just want to let you know, as I mentioned earlier, if you want to get all of my dynasty rankings, including for Super Flex, you can check this out right here, the Fantasy Blueprint. Do you want to win your league? It's as simple as that. Well, this will help you do so. Not only will it have all the dynasty tools that'll be updated all throughout the next year, but also everything for your season-long league and rankings every single week during the season up until your fantasy playoffs to help you win that league. And for whatever reason, if you don't make your dynasty or season-long playoffs, I'll just give you a refund. It's just $10 for the entire year, by the way, so 12 months, less than $1 a month, by the way. And if you don't make those playoffs, again, it's 100% refunded to you. You can check this out by clicking the link in the description below or scanning the QR code. It will take you to a page where you'll have just to follow 2 simple steps. We have a partner that helps you get this for a much cheaper price than it would have normally been, like 5 or 6 times the price. They take on that cost for you, so you can check it out right now before your dynasty or season-long drafts. Now, the number 19 player is a running back, Marshon Lloyd, who got drafted by the Green Bay Packers, and I actually think this is a quality landing spot. It doesn't seem like that on the surface, but he should immediately be the running back too, be able to compete with A.J. Dillon, who has struggled, who might be a cut candidate, who only got re-signed to a 1-year, $2.7 million deal. And Lloyd joins the Packers, who under Matt LaFleur, whether he's with the Titans or the Packers, likes to use 2 running backs. And if Lloyd can win the running back 2 job, he should see a significant role right away. But that's not all, because yeah, Josh Jacobs signed a 4-year deal worth $48 million, but there is an out to this contract, as you can see right here. We get this crazy ad popping up. You can see right here, potential out in 2025. So they can get rid of him after this year if they wanted to, and maybe that's the reason why you draft Marshon Lloyd. Hey, we draft this guy. If he does really well, he's cheap as a 3rd-round pick. We can get rid of Josh Jacobs after this year, which means the Packers are actually incentivized to give Lloyd opportunities to beat out A.J. Dillon and maybe even show what he could do to take on more of a running back 1 role heading into future seasons. And I mean, this kind of makes sense. The guy's 220 pounds with 4.46 speed. This is the type of molded player, the Derrick Henry, the A.J. Dillon types that we've seen Matt LaFleur a couple of times now fall in favor and fall and having a liking for. Now, I have one more player in tier 4, and it is going to be wide receiver Jermaine Burton, who ends up landing in a sneaky good landing spot. Burton out of Alabama lands with the Cincinnati Bengals, and look, he fell in this draft. He could have potentially been a first-round pick if he didn't have these off-the-field concerns. But he actually lands in a good spot because Tyler Boyd is gone and T. Higgins is on the franchise tag. It seems very likely he won't be there next year, so immediately this year, Jermaine Burton should be able to earn the starting slot wide receiver role in 3 wide receiver sets, push T. Higgins at time for reps in 2 wide receiver sets, and then heading into next year can be a top 2 receiver on this team where he has a very quality and stable quarterback situation with Joe Burrow on the Bengals. And if you're not familiar with Burton, he led the Alabama receiving room the past 2 years in receptions and yardage, and he is just this physical receiver who wins downfield, and even though he's not the biggest receiver, he wins with elite physicality and aggressiveness. Now we enter a new tier with my 21st overall ranked player, and this is going to be Roman Wilson, heading tier number 5 here, and it was quietly a nice spot for Roman Wilson to land with the Pittsburgh Steelers. He's a receiver out of Michigan because his 2024 competition, honestly, it's not much. In the wide receiver room, there's George Pickens, okay, probably the wide receiver 1, but after that, you're talking about like Quez Watkins, maybe doesn't even make the roster, and Van Jefferson. This has all the ability for a guy like Roman Wilson, who won in the slot and also out wide in Michigan, to kind of go out there and do the same for this team. And Roman Wilson, he has the 4.3 speed. He can win on the outside, which sets up nicely with Russell Wilson, his new quarterback, guys like Doug Baldwin, guys like Tyler Lockett. We saw these slot hybrid players with speed win in the past with Russ on the outside. And it was nice to see this tweet, another one from Josh Norris here, about Arthur Smith, the new offensive coordinator for the Pittsburgh Steelers, basically pointing that out. He said that he has a little inside-outside flex to his game, and that's the goal that you're hoping to see them use him not only in the slot, but on the outside. So we'll go from one speedy player to another with my 22nd overall ranked player. And that is Jaylen Wright out of Tennessee. He lands in maybe the perfect, and probably is the perfect spot for him to land. The Miami Dolphins, who, what do they focus on? They focus their offense on speed. In college at Tennessee, he had a lot of open space, not a lot of guys in the box. Probably going to be the case in Miami as well. Now, he is going to have immediate competition with Devon Achane and also Raheem Mostert, but after this year, Raheem Mostert has a potential out to his contract, probably something that they will take on since he'll be like 32 years old, and there'll be a lot more opportunities next year for Jaylen Wright, but he should see some this year as well. Because Wright brings that speed dimension that they need in this Miami offense, but also he brings size out of the backfield that Raheem Mostert and Devon Achane just lack. He's about 210 to 215 pounds, Jaylen Wright, and that's a little bit of a bonus here. My number 23 ranked rookie in tier 5 is Bo Nix. So this will be the final quarterback that we talk about, and he's honestly rising for me, and he might rise a little bit more because he was taken with a top 12 overall pick. Sean Payton seems to love him no matter which show he goes on, whether it's his press conference, whether it's the Pat McAfee show. He's just gushing about all the positive statistics that Bo Nix had in college. And that stems from the fact that in the Oregon system, he just didn't turn the ball over a lot, but he also didn't throw the ball downfield. But even when you account for that, you could still see that he was the most accurate quarterback maybe of all time in college football, depending on the stats you look at. Now, I do have some concerns when you talk about a guy who didn't throw the ball downfield a lot in college, because look at the receivers that he has on his team. Courtland Sutton, downfield jump ball receiver. Marvin Mims, downfield speedy receiver, averaged 17 yards per catch as a rookie. Josh Reynolds, a largely an intermediate to downfield receiver, and even Troy Franklin, his receiver from college, they played together at Oregon, mostly a downfield receiver. So these are the guys you have. You have no underneath slot guys who can kind of win and get open for one Bo Nix. But he is a first-round quarterback who should start right away. Zach Wilson's his only competition, and he has Sean Payton there, who has been known to kind of build up these quarterbacks in the past. And like I said, all Sean Payton has been doing, no matter where you look at, is seeming as if it's like this guy's his son. Like he's just talking about him in the highest praises, not hiding anything. On the Pat McAfee show, all he did was kind of praise him. He talks about his arm strength being underrated, which is maybe somewhat of a stretch. Talks about obviously the IQ, the experience, and the accuracy. Now, my number 24 ranked rookie takes us back to the running back position. I believe he is my running back 5, and that is going to be Blake Corm, who goes off the board as the 3rd running back in the NFL draft, but it's a complicated landing spot for obvious reasons, like Kyren Williams, who had one of the best roles in football, 85% of the snaps last year for the Rams, highest among any running back. But the positives for Corm are that Sean McVay, when he trusts multiple running backs, he will use multiple running backs. But last year, he couldn't trust anybody behind Kyren Williams, so he had to give Kyren Williams a bigger workload, but he's already come out and stated since then he wants to lower that workload heading into this year, which is great news for this guy right here, Blake Corm, because if Corm can just go out there and be trusted, not fumble the ball, be a good pure runner like he was in college, probably the best pure runner in this class, probably a better pure runner than Kyren Williams, then there's no reason why Sean McVay shouldn't trust him, and which should mean 30 to 40% of the snaps at least in his rookie year. So I expect Blake Corm to start out right away as a committee back, but who knows, in a year or two, maybe he goes past Kyren Williams and starts to become the 1A, depending on how great of a success he has his first couple of seasons. And last but certainly not least, the number 25 rookie in these dynasty rankings is the wide receiver Javon Baker out of UCF. He was a 4th round pick by the New England Patriots, but I actually think he has more upside to his game than the other rookie taken here in Jalen Polk. Look, Baker actually went to Alabama his first couple of years, buried behind a bunch of first round picks there, so he smartly transfers and immediately has an 800-yard season, and then last year has over an 1,100-yard season as the clear wide receiver 1, averaging 22 yards per catch. I mean, that's all this guy does. In college, he averaged 17 yards per catch. He is kind of like the Jermaine Burton, just a physical, aggressive downfield receiver. And I thought he could have been a 2nd round draft pick, so I'm not concerned with him landing in the 4th round, especially as we've talked about a couple of times in this video, the Patriots wide receiver room doesn't have any alphas, let alone even an established starting 3 wide receivers. So these are my top 25 rookie rankings, and again, if you want the Superflex one, you can check them out with that link down in the description of the QR code right now. These will also be updated many times over the next couple of months and over the next course of the year, so you can get all those updates as well. Now, if you found this video helpful, make sure to hit the subscribe button. It takes 2 seconds, and it really helps me as we try and push towards 100,000 subscribers. And if you want to see the 10 biggest losers from the NFL draft, well, check out this video right here. There's there's going to be a good amount of rookies in there, but as well as some veterans who lost based on what happened in the NFL draft.